Dean and Tyler Listle are registered investment advisor representatives. Investment advisory services offered through Brokers International Financial Services, LLC, member SIPC. Brokers International Financial Services, LLC, and Secure Retirement Solutions, LLC are not affiliated companies.
It's time for Secure Retirement Solutions with your hosts, Dean and Tyler Listle, fully licensed retirement specialists from Secure Retirement Solutions in Green Bay. Now, here are your hosts, Dean and Tyler.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Tyler and I will discuss topics that affect your retirement, such as investments, income planning, Social Security, and much more. Good morning, Ty. How are you?
Good morning, Dean. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Good. Thank you. Today we're going to talk about financial planning. We get a lot of questions when it comes to financial planning, and the main one is, do I really need a financial plan? And of course, Tyler and I are going to tell you the obvious, which is yes, absolutely. And part of the reason is there are so many things that a financial plan addresses and identifies when you go into retirement. And we look at it mainly for a retirement planning tool, but also for those people who are younger in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. If they start a financial plan at that stage of their life, they are able to fully model how much money it's going to take to meet their goal, whatever that goal may be. Also, a financial plan debunks some of the myths out there, such as we hear it all the time, and that is somebody told me, or I read, or I heard you need $1 million to be able to retire, or you need $2 million or $3 million, whatever it may be. And we do not believe in that at all. And part of the reason is it could take you $1 million. It could be much more than that, but it's really a personal situation. We need to go in and look at everything, such as, what kind of expenses do you have? What type of lifestyle are you used to living? What type of income have you been accustomed to? Look at all those things. We have some clients that have significantly less than $1 million put away, but because their lifestyle wasn't that lavish, they took care of all their expenses. They can maintain the same lifestyle in retirement that they had while they're working, and that's typically the goal for most people. If you talk to them, and we ask our clients, what would it take for you to feel comfortable in retirement? And for most people, it is to maintain the same lifestyle in retirement that I have financially while I'm working, just to take the pressure off of worrying about running out of money. So those are some of the things that we would look at when it comes to financial planning. And really, you have to remember too, studies have been done in the past that show and prove that if you designate something to writing, specifically a financial plan, you're going to stick with it significantly longer than if you just think you know what your plan is going to be. You will go off course if you don't have something designated to writing. Tyler, did I miss anything there on the basics of a financial plan and the need for it?
So when it comes to a financial plan, Dean, how you mentioned that studies show that if you have a written plan, you'll stay with it much longer. And in addition to that, what we find too is that many people who have a successful and lasting retirement, it's not by accident. Oftentimes they do have a plan that they're following that got them there and that continues to get them throughout the course of their retirement. So that's what we find just in practice with a lot of our clients who we take almost everyone through a financial plan, but when we have clients who come into our office and they might not have an advisor, or they might be working with someone who doesn't give them a financial plan, oftentimes they're all over the place and they really have no goal or nothing written on paper directing them where to go. So again, that's one of the lines that I like to use, where those people who we find do have a successful and lasting retirement money-wise, it's usually not by accident. Usually they do have a financial plan. So that just goes to show how important it is that you have one. And then in addition to that, a financial plan, if you're heading into retirement or in retirement, it can model out the next 20, 30, 40 years of your life, including retirement. And even if you're younger too, you can use one as well to model out basically all of your financial life. So we find that for people, it gives them some direction, it gives them some guidance, because I can tell someone who's 35 years old to save 15% for retirement, but until they see, okay, if I were to actually do that, what am I going to get? What's the end goal and when can I retire? It takes it that much further, and we also find that for those people that do have a financial plan, they are that much more eager to save and not get off track because they know what the end goal is in mind. So again, financial plans are very important, and now we're going to go through and go over what financial plans can help you determine.
Okay, and before we go into that, one last thing, Tyler, and this is a plug for the company. We don't typically do this, but we need to, and that is a financial plan is complimentary for all of our clients. So for instance, if somebody comes here and has us put together a retirement program for them or investments, whatever it may be, we will complimentary put together a financial plan for them. And part of the reason is we're a fiduciary, and as a fiduciary, we need to know the financial and debt situation of a client before we can make proper recommendations. So if you're working with a financial advisor, and for instance, if you have a 401k that needs to be rolled over, and the very first thing they say is, well, let's move it into this, before they really know what your goals are. They don't have those conversations to find out, again, what expenses are, what your goals are, what type of lifestyle you have. I think that's more of a salesperson than it is a fiduciary then. So, slow down, ask for a financial plan. If your advisor doesn't create or have the ability to put together a financial plan, get a different advisor. So now let's go talk about what the financial plan helps determine. The first thing is when we go into preparing a financial plan for somebody, we'll sit down with the client and we'll spend a couple hours just doing some fact finding. We'll find out, what some of the goals are for these people when they retire. Do they have a set pattern of wanting to travel? Are they content being at their forever home? Things like that you need to find out. You also need to talk to them about, family members. We're not being nosy when we ask people, how many children they have or tell us about your children. We just want to know if you have special needs children that you have to take care of while they're adults for the rest of your life. If that's the case, we need to go into a mode where we look at making sure that that child is taken care of. So there are a lot of things that go into it. We'll ask about Social Security statements, pensions, life insurance, expenses, fixed expenses, daily living and so on and so forth. But what we'll do is start plugging this information in after we have our fact-finding meeting. And the first thing we're going to put in there is the assets. These are the liquid assets we're looking at. These are the assets that are IRAs, their 401ks, their Roth accounts, their cash, their CDs. Part of the reason is all of those are going to be used in one form or another for most people to draw income from in retirement. That's why you just work the last 20, 30, 40 years of your life, is to put money away to live off of. So we start to identify and say, okay, are these in the right investments or the right vehicles to generate that type of income? We put them through the stress test here internally. We look at safety, income, and growth for all asset classes that we look at. Is it too heavy towards the safety side, which is great, you feel good sleeping at night, but your rates of return might be a half a point? We have some people that come in going into retirement. They say, well, I have to be very, very, very conservative in retirement. I can't take any chances. So they put everything into CDs. Well, with the current interest rates out there, that money's not going to last a long time. So you do need to make sure that the 3-bucket approach is looked at. Yes, we want to have safety. Yes, we want to have income. Yes, we want to have growth. And those buckets are not filled proportionately equal for every client. Some of them are. Some have more on growth. Some have more on safety. It all depends on your current situation. So in addition to that, then we'll look at rates of return. As I said, for instance, if you're all CDs, you're going to be very, very conservative. However, we do want to have some of that conservative bucket to take care of emergency expenses. Our theory is if you have a fixed expense, you should have a fixed investment or a fixed retirement plan. So you need to make sure that if you have certain expenses coming up, we have a bucket of money that addresses that. But again, we also need the growth and income. Tyler, what else do we normally look at?
Yeah, Dean, so one of the first things and one of the main things that a good financial plan will help people determine is how much income they should be able to make each year in retirement. And that comes from a couple different sources. The first one, now this mainly applies to those people that are retiring within 5 to 10 years. The first one would be Social Security. So it factors in Social Security benefits, and that is where we ask people to see if they can go to the Social Security Administration website, ssa.gov, and you can go out there and you can print out a benefit statement which will tell you approximately what your Social Security benefit will be if you were to retire at your full retirement age, or at 62 or at 70. So it breaks it down for you, and then what we do is we plug that in. So it takes your income from Social Security. There are some people who still are receiving pensions. Now, many companies right now they're shifting away from pensions, but we do have some clients as well that will have a pension. So it factors a pension into there as well. And then it also looks at, Dean, as you just mentioned, all your assets, everything that you have saved for retirement. So you might have a 401k, 403b, Roth accounts, IRA accounts. It factors all those in as well. And then it says, okay, based on what your expenses are in retirement, here's what your income will be. And your income is made up of, again, your Social Security benefits, your pension if you have one, and then a certain percentage of your retirement fund. So then you take your Social Security benefits, your pension, you look at what your expenses are. If your expenses are more than your fixed income, which would be Social Security and pension, then you're going to have to take more out of your retirement funds. So it can factor in all sources of income that you should be able to make each year in retirement. And this is something that's especially beneficial for those people who are, or who we consider as pre-retirees. So those people who are right there within 0 to 10 years of retirement, it can give them a very accurate number in terms of, okay, here's what our expenses are going to be. Here's what the income is, the total income that we can make each year in retirement. So number one, a financial or retirement plan really helps those people that are just heading into retirement fill in certain gaps, as I like to say, where they can make little tweaks to get them where they want to be. But it also will help younger folks, not necessarily with an income number in retirement, but it helps younger people determine how much they need to save in order to retire at a certain age. So for example, if someone comes in and they're younger, in their late 20s, 30s, or even 40s, and they want to retire in another 20 years, we can say, okay, based on what you're doing now, you might not be able to, if you're 40 years old, if you continue to do what you're doing, you might not be able to retire until 70. But if you want to retire at 60, then here's what you have to do differently. You might have to save, instead of saving 7% into your 401k, you might have to bump that up to 15%. So for younger people, it can show them how much they need to save in order to retire at a certain age. It can do the same thing for pre-retirees, but with pre-retirees, it can show them exactly how much, or roughly how much income they can be getting from their Social Security benefits, pensions, and their retirement funds each year. And then it'll show if their retirement funds are going to last and what they need to do differently.
Okay, before we continue, we're going to take a quick break.
You're listening to Dean and Tyler Listle, investment advisors with Secure Retirement Solutions, located on Packerland Drive in Green Bay. For a complimentary review of your current investments, or if you have questions, please call them at 920-347-9888 or go to their website at srsplans.com.
Okay, what else does a financial plan do? When we look at this, we also go in there, once we go through the fact-finding meeting, start plugging this information in, as Tyler said, both the assets and some of the expenses. Then we look at where the money is currently at and what direction is it going to take, you into retirement. So for instance, we see people very, very, very heavy into 401ks or 403bs, which is wonderful. It is the greatest way, we believe, to generate wealth is by using your company-sponsored retirement plan. You get pre-tax dollars in there, or for some people you have Roth options. But we look at that and find out, okay, you might have a line in the sand that says we are going to retire at 62 years old. That is our goal. Okay, if you retire at 62 years old and under the current laws and regulations around the Affordable Care Act, that means you're going to have to carry your own insurance Maybe you'll take corporate insurance for a little while after retiring in the form of COBRA, which lasts for 18 months. But then you're going to have to go onto the exchange through the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, whatever you call it, but on the exchange and get insurance. Here's a good time prior to retirement to start modeling this out, because your insurance needs, your health insurance is what I'm referring to, is going to be based on premiums that are determined by income. And what that means is if you have qualified accounts that you're going to be drawing from, you are not only going to be paying taxes on that, it is going to be deemed income when you determine what your health insurance premiums are going to be. So for instance, if you have all 401ks, 403bs, anything that's a corporate sponsored plan that is in the non-Roth portion, and you retire and you roll them over, a process that a lot of people use, and move them into a traditional IRA, every dollar that you take out of there is going to be reported as income. So you throw that income on top of maybe a pension if you do have one. If you don't have one, it goes on top of Social Security benefits many times. And what it does do is it puts your reportable income up higher, so you're going to pay significantly more for monthly premiums with health insurance. So by putting a financial plan together before you retire, so there's some time here, many times we will instruct clients to plug the Roth portion of your 401k as heavy as you possibly can, or quite possibly run your 401k up to the match that your company gives you, then leave the 401k and we will set up a Roth or a non-qualified investment for you to continue to try to get that 15% each year that we use as a goal to put away. And then what happens is pulling that money from that non-qualified account, cash positions, or Roth to use as income in retirement does not show up as income, even though it is income in your pocket. It shows up as no income when you're putting together your health insurance premiums. So by looking at this and planning a little bit with a financial plan, we can not only identify these things, we can bring down your reportable income. Even though you're putting it into your pocket, your reportable income comes down because, again, it's a Roth account or cash account or non-qualified, and therefore your health insurance premiums will go down during that time period between retirement and 65 when you qualify for Medicare.
Yeah, Dean, really, really good points there. Now, this is a big one where a good financial plan will also help you determine which accounts to contribute your retirement funds to. So oftentimes I'll find that someone might be putting a lot of their retirement funds into their 401k, or they might be maxing out a traditional IRA. And if we go into the financial plan and if we switch it around where instead of maxing out a traditional IRA or putting so much into their 401k, if we put that into a Roth IRA, or if they switch their contributions, if their company offers a Roth 401k, if they switch it to the Roth portion, then that can extend their retirement funds by up to 5 years in their retirement. So something as simple as which accounts tax-wise you contribute to can really be beneficial and can really help in the long run, where if you shift from a traditional IRA, which is pre-tax, meaning that you don't pay any taxes when you put the money in, you get a deduction, but then you pay taxes when you take the money out down the line, usually will not be as beneficial as if you were to switch and put money into Roth accounts, where you don't get a tax deduction up front, but with a Roth account, anything you put in plus any of the growth is then tax-free when you take the money out in retirement. So oftentimes a financial plan can determine which accounts you should be contributing to, and we use that a lot where we'll go in and we have clients that are doing a really good job putting a lot of money into their various retirement accounts, but oftentimes shifting where they're putting the money, whether it be pre-tax or Roth, can make a big difference in the long term. So that's something that you really want to pay attention to, and having a financial plan helps you do that.
Okay, good points, Tyler. A couple other things that we look at with a financial plan, and that is we can model out the RMDs, the required minimum distributions. And a lot of changes have been made to RMDs here in the year 2020 under the CARES Act. And what's happening now is the required minimum distributions, just as the name implies, you had to take money out of qualified accounts at the age of 70 and a half years old. And now that's been moved to 72. But within your financial plan, we can see what upcoming required minimum distributions you're going to have to take 5, 10, 15 years out, 2 years out, however many years out. But then what we can do is start planning around that. Okay, do we want to reduce that bucket of money and instead grow a different bucket of money that does not require RMDs? So for instance, Roth accounts and non-qualified accounts, maybe brokerage accounts, you do not have to take required minimum distributions. And for some people, taking RMDs is a very, very big situation for them because you have to pay taxes on that money. So if we can put money and redirect it into non-RMD accounts like Roth accounts and non-qualified accounts, many times that's advantageous. Also understand under the new CARES Act, qualified accounts like IRAs at the time of passing, and it goes on to a non-spouse, they have to draw that account down within 10 years now. It used to be they would have to draw that account down over their lifetime and take the RMDs. Now it's 10 years. So if you're elderly and you pass away, and let's say you have somebody, your children are in their 50s or maybe 60s, 40s, they're probably making the most they've ever made from a payroll standpoint. And now they're having to take that money that they inherited from their parents and spend it down over 10 years. That could be crushing from a tax standpoint. So again, we can model this out and say, okay, let's start doing some Roth conversions maybe from your IRAs into Roth accounts so the RMDs don't hurt as much.
Yeah, Dean, good point there with the RMDs. In addition to the RMDs, what a good comprehensive financial plan can do is it can successfully model out all years and filing options for Social Security. So this is a big one. And right now with people who are retired, Social Security is the primary form of income for many retired Americans. So they want to know, okay, what is the best filing option? What are my options? What's the best age? They have plenty of different questions, as they should when it comes to Social Security. And a good financial plan can go through and model out all options, all ages, all strategies. So everything from spousal filing, file and suspend strategies, straight filing at different ages, widower's benefits, divorcee benefits. There's so much to know for Social Security. And with a financial plan, we can go through and we can plug in each and every different scenario and determine how that would affect their retirement. So whether it's filing at 62 versus 65 versus 70. So we can go and plug all that in and see how that affects their bottom line with their financial plan. And many people, again, this is the number one form of income for retirees. So this is something that you want to get right, and you can't get when to file for Social Security right unless you have a financial plan where you go through all the scenarios. So again, financial plan can help you model out Social Security. This is the number one form of income for retirees, so it's definitely something that you're going to want to look at when it comes to a financial plan.
Okay, another thing that we look at with a financial plan is the best time to take a pension. So for instance, if you do have a pension, we will model that out and look at the statements that come from your employer in your retirement plan and determine when is the best time to take the pension. Sometimes it's based on the growth that the pension has been maintaining. Many times we look at it and say, okay, it's based on the expenses you might have in retirement also. And other times we will look at staging it outside of Social Security. So many times we'll say, okay, Social Security taken at this particular time will delay your pension for a while and allow it to grow before we start taking that, or vice versa. We'll take a pension first, and then what we'll do is defer your Social Security benefit till as late as we possibly can until it's needed. Therefore, you're going to get more money per month. So there is a method to the madness on how you want to start taking this money. Other times we'll look at it and defer a pension or take it early depending on what type of withdrawals you're going to be making from your assets, your investments. So when you look at a financial plan, you're able to stage these things correctly. Without a financial plan, again, you're just, it's a little bit of a dark room here that you're working within because you don't really know when to take it. We've seen people, unfortunately, draw their pension, Social Security, and start withdrawals from the wrong accounts. And unfortunately, you can't undo some of those things real easily, especially a pension filing and Social Security options.
Yeah, good points, Dean. Pension filing and Social Security filing, they go hand in hand when it comes to when to file for those. But one of the last things here that we're going to talk about when it comes to needing a financial plan that I think is one of the most underrated is a good financial plan. It allows you to plug in what your expenses are and you can create a budget that way. And what I tell people is I don't care how much you have in retirement funds. I don't care if it's $250,000, $500,000, or $5 million. The number that I look at before I even look at how much you have in retirement is what your expenses are. Because what your expenses are in retirement will dictate how much you need to have in retirement funds in order to cover those expenses throughout your retirement. So again, that allows you to go and plug in what your actual expenses are, stick to a budget, and that's the number one thing for helping you determine and fill in all the other holes. So when you have a budget, then you can determine how much income you're going to need heading into retirement and throughout retirement, and then it goes for even before retirement. So one of the main things is allowing you to plug in your expenses, create a budget. That is all within a good financial plan. And then in addition to that, right now with the whole coronavirus and everything going on, what better time to have a financial plan? Because we find that people who don't have one, especially right now, when the markets are volatile and income situations for many people might not be that stable, those people that have a financial plan, they're sticking to it. Those people that don't, they're making knee-jerk reactions that are going to throw them off for a period of time way over the long term. So again, when it comes to a financial plan, it allows you to create a budget, stick to that budget, and then again, right now, whenever there's market volatility or any type of major shakeup or event in the world, you're not likely to make a knee-jerk reaction and fall off.
Okay, and one last thing, and that is usually the tax modeling part of a financial plan. We have a lot of clients that definitely want to find out how much taxes they're going to be up against in retirement. So we look at tax modeling and tax reduction strategies. Tyler and I are not CPAs. We get our tax advisor and our tax professionals involved. Once we load everything into the financial plan, we take a look at it. And then we say, okay, in addition to modeling out all of the other items that we talked about, let's look at some tax reduction strategies, and that determines where the investments start to go. So tax reduction early on is a great thing because it affects your required minimum distributions, your withdrawals, Social Security, pensions, and everything else in your financial model.
Yeah, good points there, Dean. That's all that we have today for the financial plan, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
You've been listening to Secure Retirement Solutions with your hosts, Dean and Tyler Listle, fully licensed retirement specialists from Secure Retirement Solutions in Green Bay. To get more information from Dean and Tyler, contact them on Packerland Drive in Green Bay. Call 920-347-9888 or visit them at srsplans.com. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Brokers International Financial Services, LLC. Member SIPC. Brokers International Financial Services is not an affiliated company.